that helps tie together ancient mythical theology and modern paranormal. What if this discovery is not even new, but instead just overlooked? Well, let's start at the beginning with an intro. You know how we do. A man who had once been shown the vastness of heaven and earth was told by a strange being that, despite his astral travels, he ain't seen nothing yet. The being said, "All mysteries have not yet been revealed to you." He wiped sweat from his forehead and felt a quiver of nerves course through him. He knew it was time to go to the place that this angel simply called the place where no flesh walks. Realizing the irony, he began to walk accompanied by beings of translucent flame that burned but were never consumed and would take on the form of men when necessary to communicate. They took him up to 7 mountains, past infinite winter and darkness, and up through the countless luminaries. Here he witnessed the invisible vaults in which these suns were kept. He saw that in this place, fire flows like water from the mouth of the deep. Although he had been through portals before, this one was different. It seemed to reach to heaven like a throne of sapphire. In the center was an orb of virgin flame, burning but again not consumed. A feeling of awe and dread caused him to hesitate when the beings of invisible flame called out to him, saying, "Enoch, this place is the end of heaven and earth, a prison for the stars and the host of heaven." He went and he trembled. He could not believe his eyes. He could not describe this vision except by way of saying that this place was beyond and without firmament. He saw a mighty sword composed of lightning sting the very cornerstone of the earth, and then realized what was happening and why he was being shown this terrific sight. This was generation. This was realization. This was the place where both stars and earth are born from, a place of pre-creation. This was where reality.
Fish it. Right, first of all, I'd just like to thank the Library of the Unknown channel for allowing me to use that intro. Excellent stuff. The video it's from on plasma beings is fantastic. Great stuff, I highly recommend it. So I'll leave a link to his channel and to his video down in the description below. Thank you, mate. Done me a great favour, because it also reminded me that I needed to perhaps cover in a bit more detail one of the aspects of this whole idea that I've got regarding the lost civilization, and not only what's happened to them and how it happened, but also what they were up to. Now, I say they're technologically advanced, or they were technologically advanced in all 3 instances. From Hypoborian to Doggerland to Errata. I've also said numerous times that the Anunnaki were in fact humans. It's just caused a lot of problems, but there is a reason why. You see that plasma video, that plasma beings video of Library of the Unknown, it actually reiterates the same sort of point I've been making about what UFOs are, what they actually are. Right, mate?
Hi, okay.
Yeah, that's bad. What they actually are. I mean the lights in the sky, not the nuts and bolts craft. Nuts and bolts craft of rallies. Like, it's just simple as reconditioned ancient human technology or black projects. But the lights in the sky, those craft aren't craft. They're the beings themselves. The actual, I suppose you could call them aliens. You see, there's a thing about plasma that not a lot of people understand. But a great many of our physicists and plasma scientists and electrical scientists have known for decades that plasma is, from what we can gather, conscious, even sentient. I think it was Edward Teller that famously said when he was having to explain why the H-bomb experiments weren't going as scheduled. And he said, well, we've got to wait for the plasma to agree to do it. And what he meant by that was it seemed to have a mind of its own. It doesn't act like a performing monkey. Another thing that Library of the Untold touched on was the idea that these plasma beings are I suppose you could say, the basis for all of our gods. The sentient plasma. See, plasma is very strange in the way that it can alter its shape, alter its colour, even mimic metallic objects. And it's this that it did when it visited us millennia ago, introduced itself to us, I suppose you could say. Like I said, that Library of the Untold video goes into far more detail, and I've talked about this a lot on my Telegram channel. If you follow me on there, you'll know what I'm talking about. I've discussed it quite a lot. Kind of the same with where I'm going with this. If you've watched my Hatman series, this is going to sound very familiar, so you'll have to forgive me. I don't mean to repeat myself, but well, there you are. You see, much the same way that plasma sort of is sentient, so is dark matter. Again, this is not a new discovery, although it is relatively new, I suppose. Only the past couple of decades, maybe 4 or 5 decades, that this has been known. This is largely due to the particle accelerator experiments that they were doing. They were finding dark matter being left as a byproduct, as a waste product, should I say, not a byproduct. It seemed very short-lived but extremely energetic. And so, naturally, the US military, because they were in charge of most of these particle accelerator experiments, the US military, they saw this as a potential weapon source, a bit like the atomic bomb. And so they began to try and find ways to contain it and keep it contained. You think Dark matter is a strange sort of material. By that I mean it acts in very strange ways. Especially considering it's meant to make up 90% of the universe. But it was found out pretty early on, after they began to eventually contain it using a Faraday cage, large Faraday cages, that it would affect the mood of the person carrying it or people near it, so longer it was held. Not only that, but the area that it affected would widen the longer it was kept in containment. And suddenly, the areas where it was being contained began to descend further into degradation, because of course they put it into already decaying areas that were, whose society was crumbling anyway, and the presence of this stuff seemed to accelerate it. So along with the degradation came extreme violence. This is why you see areas like Chicago or Detroit, New York, Los Angeles, all these areas seemingly descending rapidly into chaos for no apparent reason. And this is largely why. That I defined are based on very old sort of texts and medieval grimoires on magic, particularly Egyptian, Sumerian texts like Book of the Dead and other things. So what he say? Well, one of the things he said, it's always stuck with me, is that there are 3 types of dark magic. One of them is your black magic, your usual black magic.
We don't get interrupted by that dog.
Another one is chaos magic, which you see in a lot of use today, with the way it's done. The third one is demonic magic. I forgot what it's called in Latin, something demonica, anyway. Now, demonic magic is very different to chaos and black. For one very good reason. No, it's not because it's demons. It's because demonic magic in and of itself, actually a living being, is conscious, so to speak. And that's what Sam Tilly is saying. The way it is used is for opening doorways. Yeah? Whenever you want to channel a demon or open a portal, it's actually the demonic magic that you are utilising, so to speak. It's that forms the doorways. It's physics knows it as 0 point energy, right? What the 0 point is, which a lot of scientists don't understand, is this demonic magic. Like I said, it's described in all sorts of ancient religious texts. It's even mentioned in the Zohar, but it's different, slightly different in the way that it's described. It's called something else as well, but it essentially runs along the same theme. Now, thought forms. I think you all know about thought forms and how our thoughts can manifest if there's enough people thinking about them. What?
Where's the sun?
It's behind the cloud. Up there, see? Where the bright light is. Whenever there's an intense sort of focus onto one thing, yeah, sort of certain icon or something. Slender Man is a good example, right? I'm not saying he exists, right, but I'm just using that as an example because a lot of people focused on that and believed it to be real, yeah. Even though it was actually it was a guy, the guy who made it up. He did it for a competition. He won the competition with it. He basically had to come up with a Photoshop picture and a very believable story behind it. So he developed Slender Man, and then people run off with it. But it's this sort of focus on a fictional sort of character that sort of theory goes can actually manifest them into real life if it's intense enough. Now, most of you will be shouting, "Well, that's chaos magic." I know. Right?
Magic? Magic.
What are they accessing to create that entity? Yeah, from out of nothing. Elementals. Yeah, elemental spirits. What?
Magic.
Yeah, they've never been on Earth. They've just created. What do you think they're created from? Yeah, it's all demonic magic. Like I said, it's living, it's conscious. So yeah, it became pretty apparent very, very quickly that dark matter actually affects people when it comes into contact with their energetic field. In fact, it actually grows into strength, feeds off those negative emotions, and all of a sudden, if you know about the paranormal, you begin to realise exactly what that sounds horrifically like. The ancients used to call it demonic magic and used to think of it as a conscious force, a conscious living entity. And much like those plasma beings, dark matter itself too has its own intelligence and its own consciousness. But that's not the end of the story, because that's not entirely exactly what it is. Demonic magic, in the way that it's described, is the energy force that's in between realities, and it's what humans manipulate in order to do magical rites, spells, open doorways, portals. It's this force that is manipulated by us and creates these access points. It's also used by other entities on the other side. And it's this that I firmly believe that was what they were, I suppose you could say, experimenting or messing about with back in ancient times. When we talk about experiments, we usually think of scientists and engineers messing about with some sort of technology. Well, the scientists and the engineers back in those days were the sorcerers and the magicians and the shaman. And the technology is basically just a tool that makes something easier or gives you access to something else, something that you're wishing to get to. And in that regard, writing is a form of technology, speech is a form of technology, language even. And in the same regard, so are sigils that you lay on the floor, chants that you do with your mouth. Magical rites are also in and of themselves a technology. And it's this that they were utilising. I firmly believe that these plasma beings visited us many, many millennia ago and influenced the Hypoboreans. Influenced them to such a degree that they began to sort of mess with the reality around them, with the fabric of reality around them through magical rites and through sorcery. And eventually through high technology. Now, instead of summoning in these plasma beings, or because they weren't exactly sure about what they were doing, instead summoned something else in, some from the darkest reaches of the astral, and brought it into our reality, and it possessed them, took over them. This is the origin of the Anunnaki. The people, the elites that were possessed by those beings, were granted immortality because they were possessed by these beings. And it's this where we get the idea of our ancient gods, goddesses, and everything else in between. One of those was very likely Ahriman. Now, Ahriman is as Rudolf Steiner put it, it is the nemesis of mankind, the obstacle that we not only will but must face. Right, mate? In order for our, the human race to evolve spiritually and ascend. And this Ahrimanic force is not only our greatest enemy, it's also an enemy and nemesis of our own making. It's created from all the negativity, all the black and evil rites that we did. And this is only spawned from, again, that demonic magic, that energetic force between worlds, between realities. This is what makes it more dangerous, because it knows us implicitly. Not only that, but it exists outside of space and time because of its position between worlds. And with this in mind, that same energetic force that we have been creating is also the same energetic force that visited us deep in our distant past during the Hypoborian age. How is that possible, I hear you say? Well, in order to begin the process of its own creation, it needed to do it itself and used us to begin that creation process. And there's many, countless folkloric legends and mythologies around the world have often stated we're in a kind of paradoxical loop, going through the same motions over and over and over and over and over again for eons. But each time one or the other side gets a little closer to tipping that balance. And I truly believe we're on the cusp at the moment, where we're both on that knife edge. And one of us is about to tip that balance right over the edge. Neither side could win. Anyway, that's all I think I've got to say on it at the moment. But hopefully that's given you a vague idea of where things are going to be going, and why the Hypoboreans were technologically advanced anyway. Alright, thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, you know the drill. I'll see you later.
Sciences, yeah? You like sciences. Most of you like sciences. Okay, I like sciences. Okay, I don't like sciences, but anyway, someone's got to like sciences. But they're starting to work out through quantum theory and string theory that the vast majority of what makes up our sort of reality is at the pure foundational level. Little strings of frequency. Particles end and they become waves. Sound waves, more specifically. Frequency waves. Yeah, I know. Weird, huh? It's this that makes up the entire basis of matter. It's just frequency, waves, strings. Our universe is probably just the same. Is likely just a string and a mass of more frequency of waves and strings. Just universe sized. When you step outside of reality, you probably see just a latticework of strings, some thin, some small, some fat, some big, some large, all waving around each other. Some the size, not even the size of a human hair, some smaller, some vast, size of the universe. And it's likely this that makes up the dimensions outside of our reality. But it's these frequencies that a being like Ahriman can use to bring himself into our reality. It's also what creates him as a being in the first place. Our collective low frequencies that are given out from every single person on the earth, all coalescing in that sort of reality between realities that makes up what is the dark matter dimension kind of thing, the 0 point, the world between worlds, limbo. Call it what you want, but it's there. Another way to describe it. Okay, this is one that's probably a better explanation, really. Magic. Not that Paul Daniels or David Copperfield or insert your own sort of magician's name there. But real magic. Chaos, black, white, nature, demonic. All of them need two things. Well, three. Okay, three. The first is a sigil, written or drawn on the ground. Yeah? that sigil, that shape, that form, that writing, all has a frequency of its own. You then have the person inside that sigil, usually, that gives off his own frequency. That usually matches up with the frequency that's on the floor. And then you get the chant on top of that. And that chant, that adds a further frequency. And they all work in harmony. So, 1, open the gate. 2, keep the person protected, or the magician. And 3, call in the entity that they're after, or calling in, or manifesting what they want.